And what they tend to do if their hand is forced and they have to have telework is they'll go for the most compelling situation. So Jack puts in a request and he says, you know, my mother's ill and I've been trying to help her out, and if I could telework, I could be there to take her to medical appointments. I put in a request because I say, you know what, I really would like to go back to school and get an advanced degree. And the boss says, well, you know what, Jack's reason really reaches me. I can understand that. I can relate to that. But Kathy's reason, I'm glad she wants to improve her life, but who cares? That's her problem, not mine. So as a result of that, we get into the situation that I call playing Solomon, you know, trying to make a value judgment on which person's reason is better than someone else's. Not a good thing to do. Because the opportunity, if we use business criteria, we can make sure that we're equitable, that we're playing fair and we're being reasonable. But we don't have to treat people equally because not everybody has the same job and not everybody has the same performance level. Not everybody is going to meet your eligibility criteria. So again, if you use business reasons, you'll be able to have a fair approach. Maybe not keep everyone happy, but people will at least understand that they're all being measured against standardized criteria. I want to say something now about communication. We want to establish a structured approach so that we avoid the out of sight, out of mind mentality, and that we maintain that vital connection between the teleworker and the rest of the office. The reason for that is, don't go yet, Laura, that's good. If you don't have a structured approach for communication, and one fine day you've got an employee teleworking, right, and you haven't talked to them all day long, and right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon you think, you know, I'm going to call and ask a question about this project they're working on. I really think I need to know about this now. I can't wait. So you pick up the phone, you make the call, and what happens? They don't answer the phone. And you're thinking, where are they? They're on the back nine right now, enjoying this beautiful weather, or maybe they're watching a soap opera, not over in their home office. The point is that when you don't have a communication plan, you're probably going to assume the worst. If you call a teleworker at home and they don't answer the phone and they haven't called you back in 15 or 20 minutes. What I would ask you is, what do you think about an employee who's down the hall from you? So if you call me and I'm sitting down the hall and I don't answer the phone right away, and maybe I haven't even called you back in an hour, my guess is you're probably thinking, Kathy had a meeting, she forgot to tell me about it. She's down the hall talking to her colleagues. Maybe I'm out to lunch. But you're not going to think that I'm out playing golf or watching soap operas. So my point here is that communication is vitally important because we have to break through a mindset about what's happening when people are working at home. Just to give you an anecdote in my own personal situation, when I took over the program for the Department of Justice in 1995, I thought, you know, I've got to find out what this is about. I started teleworking in January of 95, 1 day a week. By the time I was close to retirement, I was actually teleworking 3 days a week. I worked in the same organization for 13 years. In all that time, with me being a regular teleworker, I can't tell you the number of times colleagues would say, you know, Kathy, I was going to call you yesterday to ask a question, but you were at home, so I just didn't feel comfortable giving you a call. And I'd say, you know what, I might have been physically at home, but I was at work. I was at my office. So that is my point, is that the structured communication is very important, and I think you'll find that communication may actually improve with your teleworkers. I was actually much more accessible from my home office than I was when I was in my downtown DC office, because when I was in DC, I was in meetings, in and out of meetings all the time. When I was at home, I was sitting at my desk, working at my computer. It was easy to get a hold of me. I wish I had a silver bullet, a magic solution for communication, but in fact, it's very personalized. So I think what it comes down to is that you have to decide, given the culture of your organization, what type of communication works best. It's probably going to be a blend of phone communication and email communication. You can go ahead and pull them all up. But I would suggest to you that whatever kind of communication plan you pull together, in the beginning when someone is first teleworking, that you make sure you touch base each time that they telework, ideally in the morning. I would recommend that you as the supervisor call them rather than the reverse to assure yourself that you're comfortable that they are at work, and that you, again, break through that barrier of feeling comfortable with calling them no matter where they're physically located. Also, I think it's important to encourage others, coworkers and clients, to contact the employee at their office when they're teleworking, whether it's a home office or a telework center. Plan in-person meetings. I think Steve mentioned something about that just a minute ago. You can't, nothing's going to, I personally am a believer in face-to-face communication, the value of having meetings in person. So I don't think that the solution is to have people telework and never have in-person interaction. In fact, at the Department of Justice, we tend to recommend no more than 3 days a week of telework, so you know the employees in the main office at least 2 days a week to connect with others. You can forward phone calls. If you forward calls or use a BlackBerry, often your clients have no idea where the person's sitting. So the telework is absolutely transparent to your customers. Confirmation is the last part of this, and that's, I had to come up with 3 C's, so I came up with that word, forgive me for that, but confirming that the employees are in fact performing the job you've hired them to do, that you are paying them to do. Using the existing performance standards is really one of the first things that I would recommend. All of you should, of course, have performance standards for your staff. And I guess what I would say to you is this. Think about it this way. If some of your staff members were moved into a different building when you got back to work next week, would you change their performance standards? I doubt it. So why would you change their performance standards because they are working from a home office or a telework center? They're still doing the same job. I'd also recommend to you weekly reports. The Department of Justice's components broadly use this idea of weekly reports. It's not too labor intensive. You can make the reports simplistic. It's a way to consistently gauge what your employees are doing, what their priorities are, and make sure that they jive with what it is that you expect of them. So again, weekly reports are an excellent way to assure yourself that the employees are getting their assignments done, and also to make sure that they have enough to do. So again, weekly reports, and if you can contact me later if you want to see some examples of the weekly reports that we have used at the Department of Justice. So some of you will recognize the guy at the top of the screen. Submitted for your consideration. You may have already entered the telework zone. We're gonna do some more aerobics now. How many of you have employees who travel on official business? Can I see a show of hands? Okay. How many of you actually do have employees who are located in a different building or on a different floor from your own? Okay, so a few people. And how many of you, I want to get to this because this sort of gets back to a question a gentleman back there asked a moment ago. How many of you, I know I did this myself before I was at Justice, how many of you have had situations where you're having to complete performance appraisals, which can be a major headache, or you're reviewing reports, or you have something you need to write, and you decide to take your work home and ask your manager to be home just for the day during the week so that you can work uninterrupted? Has anybody done that? Okay, so from just looking around the room, I would say most of you have had some level of experience with what I will call remote work. So it really isn't quite as novel a concept as you might think. I wanted to put up some online resources. For those of you who aren't familiar with telework.gov, that is the joint site that OPM and GSA established. It's a wonderful site. It has the public laws on it that involve telework. It has samples of agency telework policies. It has information on the GSA-sponsored telework centers, research. It's got a wealth of information. You just saw the wonderful website for Telework Exchange, which, by the way, as the former head of the Department of Justice's telework program, the Telework Exchange was a wonderful resource for us. They briefed our component representatives, all the telework coordinators at Justice, several times. Their website is fantastic.